It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Thursday, Gary, what is going on?
I'm doing good. What did core inflation go up?
Let me go back to that chart. I was just looking at it.
That just popped into my mind right now. It's just so much stuff going on. It just popped into my mind as we were coming.
Yeah, year over year, 3.6. It was one of those that was spot on with the median forecast. And month over month, it was also spot on at 0.3. And CPI year over year was 3.4. Month over month, 0.3. Median forecast was 0.4. The year over year was also spot on. A number of them were spot on. What was interesting is watching the analysis of that. And one analyst said, the market's going crazy because they got something right. It's one of the first reports that has come out in a long time where the median forecast was right. And so now the market's going crazy. He said, but wait for the sobering tomorrow when it sets in that retail sales were flat. The consumer is pulling back. Retail sales at 0.0.
Oh, my gosh.
No increase.
Blutarski's report card.
It's indicative of where we are. The consumer has no choice now, and you have 20% of credit card holders that have maxed out their credit lines, delinquencies that are going up, and this is a continuing trend that's been going on since the fall of last year on a pretty grand scale, but that's continuing. So the inflation thing is interesting. The question becomes, all right, if people are pulling back, how much of this is competitive pricing in order to circulate inventory from retailers? And you do see that. I was online the other day. It was actually Walmart. And they had some price drops. And I think it gets down to some of the items where the price point had hit that threshold and consumers were saying, nope, we're not buying that anymore. And then they start basically edging that down to find where that price point is that will bring them back to purchasing that. And so you watch inventories, you watch retail sales, and right now retail sales being flat.
Well, that was my also concern, as I mentioned yesterday, about the producer price index, and that it might not necessarily show up in the April report because
it wouldn't show up that quick. Yeah,
right. That's why I was stating that was so out of whack. The wholesale prices for April that you might see that May, June, July. That probably would keep inflation. If it all goes along, I mean, you're making the point, and it's a solid point, that if you're having zero sales, it becomes more competitive, and so you may have retail outlets have lost leaders in order to pull people into the stores.
The ebb and flow of all right, how much inventory do we keep, and do we buy more inventory right now if we believe those wholesale prices are going to go up down the road? Do we double up on our inventory purchases? And we did see some of that. And for the inflation, for the wholesale inflation numbers, really the assessment was, and my assessment was, on how much of the median forecast was a miss. And if that held out, if that median forecast, if you applied that to the inflation numbers that were due, at that time, Wednesday morning, then it could be a bad day. The fact that they got it right was a celebration. And that should, and one analyst said, this is absolutely no reason for the market to be celebrating. The Dow went over 40. You see likely some pulling back in the future because it will kick in that the retail sales, the individual credit lines being maxed out, the delinquencies in those credit lines Because then it becomes, all right, if you've no longer got your credit card to lean on, what do you have? Well, you have cuts. You have to cut what you spend. You're going to have to cut back drastically, and where do you do that? And right now with inflation, it's interesting. I saw so many stories again about, inflation dropping. Nope, inflation rate dropping. And as I mentioned yesterday, if it came in, and it did pretty much, if it comes in dead on the median forecast, that's not a good day. And that's what I saw a few analysts say. This isn't good. This isn't a reason to celebrate because you're not at that 2% target, and you can't get into the mindset of and the practice of, well, this is going to be the new normal. The new target is going to be 3.5%, 3.6%, because that won't cut it. That just won't cut it.
And as we have said, when you look at it, when you say 3.4% or 3.6% for the core,
for the core inflation year over year, it was 3.6.
Yeah. Okay. And remember, all of that is on top of, again, 3.6% from last year, which is on top of last year. You were probably up, 17% from pre-COVID. So the fact is, and this is the thing that I think hurts the White House and hurts Democrats when they attempt to celebrate something like this, and the public doesn't feel, because they've already experienced it, as you've always said. By the time the inflation numbers come out, the public's already experienced it. I every time I went into the store the other day, and it didn't seem like I bought a lot, and it was $98. My God, every time I go in, I think of it, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what do people that right now, that are maxing out their credit cards, they go in, and I don't buy anything extravagant. It's just the normal stuff that everybody else buys. And you see it, you're just like, wow. And then I hear, I even heard the one question. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're happy with it's 1 month. It's 1 month where core inflation is still at 3.6%. You look at the things, I want to see what the super core inflation numbers are, because when you look at that, when I was looking at how, the different things that are up over that period of time, we know that the super core inflation is even higher than core inflation. And the super core inflation, just so people know, is the things that people actually buy.
Right.
It's not all because you can take everything that's sold out there and say the inflation rate is 3.4%. Then you break it down and you say, okay, what's core inflation? Take out the things, that widely vary month to month. But then you get to super core inflation, which is, well, what do people actually buy? If you take everybody out there and you take, all right, what does everybody have to buy? And you look at those things, well, that's even higher. And so when there's this little bit of celebration that happens out there, I know my first reaction is, and I will tell you this, yesterday I looked at everything as a political consultant as a political consultant is how I looked at everything yesterday. As soon as when I woke up and the first thing I saw was Trump agrees to it, and here are Trump agrees to the debates, and hear what Biden has put out, and Trump has accepted all of it. I went, what? What are you talking about? Now I'm not sure of it, because later on Trump came out and said, no, I want a Fox News debate in early October.
Yeah,
with Brett Baer and Martha McCallum doing it. So I don't know where that is right now. I don't know. But initially it came out that he had accepted just the two, and it would be, all liberal. And I'm like, what? And that was my political mind going, don't be an idiot. Yeah. So everything yesterday I looked at was, from the political point of view. And that was the one thing that I looked at on inflation, was like, Democrats, don't celebrate this. What are you doing? This is just bad. This is just bad that you're doing it, because the public doesn't feel it. And every time the president comes out and says, see, the economy is doing great, the economy is doing great, my first reaction as a political consultant is, and that's where I put myself just with the average person out there, because I do notice inflation, is shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't say that, because you're spitting in my face when you do that.
Well, it's like, a friend of mine always talks about celebrating in the end zone after one touchdown. Celebrate after you've won the game.
Or when you're down 40-0 and somebody gets a sack and they
right.
jump and they dance all around, and it's like, you're down 40-0 in the fourth quarter.
You know, the dynamics of what's going on here, everything spells a pretty decent slowdown. You look at the possibility of what retailers are dealing with. Again, if they've got a glut of inventory after buying a little bit too much, and the price point is hit on some of those items, that price point threshold is hit on a number of those items. They discount those items, they bring them down, which would infect or affect inflation. And that's the problem you look at, because if it's the ebb and flow, it's the back and forth, it's the negotiation between the seller and the buyer, and you often have to clear inventory by getting rid of things, but then all of a sudden your inventory isn't going to be your inventory purchasing or stacking isn't going to be as robust down the road. The wholesale inflation numbers indicate that, again, we could see inflation coming up over the next several months. But the fact of the matter is when you look at gasoline prices, they expect to still be at pretty high levels going into the summer. And the purchasing power of the American family. This is what this all comes down to. It's the purchasing power of the American family. And think about this. This is a big number. If 20% of these credit card holders have maxed out their credit lines, that means 20% are in a situation where they have no choice. They're likely at that point, they probably feel so underwater. Now, the delinquencies go up, but on top of that, you've got to figure out a way to make it work. And then you become, the reason the delinquencies go up is because whatever money you have, you're not even going to make that minimum payment. You're going to buy food, shelter.
Why is it that both you and I haven't asked, we really didn't talk in we really didn't have a pre-show meeting today.
Yeah.
Normally we'll grunt at each other.
Yeah.
There wasn't even any grunting like, hey, see this? But why did you and I both look and say the biggest financial news yesterday was the credit card delinquency rate, not the inflation numbers?
Right.
That was the most, if you're talking about the health of the economy, that's the one thing that yesterday I know both you and I looked at and said, whoa. And then we saw the stock market going up, and I'm sure we both went, does anybody pay attention to financial numbers that are extremely important? If the economy has been kept going by people using their credit cards a heck of a lot more, and then it comes out with the news that 20% are delinquent, or what was that? Was that what the actual
20%?
What was it?
The 20%. 1 in 5 is maxed out.
Maxed out, right?
They maxed out their credit lines.
Right, they maxed out exactly, which means they can't take any more. Not that they're delinquent, but they maxed it out. And you look at that and you go, okay, they don't have that anymore to rely on. And odds are their bank, and especially with this, not knowing, we know the federal judge came in and said the late fee thing isn't going to go, but banks are worried right now because they're worried because there's going to be, they believe, more delinquencies coming up.
Yeah.
They have to be. That's one thing you would have to be looking at. And they're saying, all right, we can't extend your credit line. Sorry, we can't do that. Well, and so you've got a ton of people that are maxed out, and that number of 1 in 5, that is the one where I went, whoa, that's the biggest political news yesterday.
Yeah.
Or the biggest financial news.
Yeah, they reported that in the first quarter of this year, credit card and auto loan transition rates into serious delinquency continued to rise across all age groups, all demographics. This is, as we have said, inflation affects everybody. No one is immune to it. It affects you. It may affect you differently depending on what resources you have, how much money you have in savings, what your income is, but it affects you. And if you're looking at those rising delinquency rates on credit cards and auto loans, and you get to a point where retail sales are flat. That was also, I would say, that was the equally as big as the maxed out credit lines story, because of the fact that they expected it to be 0.4 month over month, and it came in at 0. Well, why does it come in at 0? Well, now let's look at what people have to spend, what they have available to them. They've maxed out their credit lines. There's no more room there. Again, you don't have any choice. And the delinquencies go up because you're using that money not to make your minimum payment, but to buy the things you need, and you still can't afford them, and that's where retail sales come in flat.
It's going to be a tough show because there's too much to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure.
We got to get all this in just 5 hours. We need 15.
Yeah.
Don't give management any ideas.
No.
Let's put the guys on 15 hours.
No thanks.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Logging miles during the hot summer months can put a serious strain on you and your truck's health. Did you know pollutants and allergens in the air outside can enter your cab through the HVAC system without you even cracking a window? That's why it's important to check those cabin air filters. Not only do dirty cabin air filters contaminate the air you breathe, they can also cause major damage to HVAC components like blower motor resistors and AC compressors. Have your cabin air filters serviced if you notice less airflow than usual coming from the interior vents. This is a common sign that your filters are at the end of their life cycle. Breathe easy when the air in your cab is fresh.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hey, we called it with Karine Jean-Pierre. Coming up following the bottom of the hour. Just one thing that I've been wondering about the polling, and it all goes back to the credit card, the research that came out yesterday that 1 in 5 users is maxed out, and it's across all demographics, as you said. Mm-hmm. The one thing is when you look at 2020.
Well, the delinquencies are across all demographics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, maxed out delinquencies.
Right. Maxed out, they said, is falling in the lower income and younger demographic group.
But the delinquency rate across all demographics. Mm-hmm. One of the things that you have seen in 2020 is that it was people over the age of 60 that supported the Democrats.
Yeah.
Remember that when we looked at it and you couldn't believe, you and I have looked at civics for the longest time. I mean, who was supporting Biden, and the older demographic like crazy supporting him. Mm-hmm. And this has been in the back of my mind. And we've talked about this. When is it going to hit? These are the people on fixed incomes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't work a job and a half.
Right.
And when will they finally say enough is enough? And because what you see is all this talk about it's the younger demographics that is moving away from Biden. Mm-hmm. I just can't imagine if you're on a fixed income today and you're retired and you had all of these plans, because the stories are out there every day while people are cutting back. The retirees now say we may have to go back to work again. We just can't make it work. Our whole retirement, our whole lives have been ruined over the last few years because our savings have been depleted. Mm-hmm. We didn't budget all this stuff, and now all of a sudden, both myself and my spouse thinking of going back to work.
Right.
It has to affect the people on fixed incomes the most. When will they respond?
Good question.
Differently.
Yeah.
Polling better than Biden. Eric and Gary on Red Eye Radio.
It's Run On Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we've got to play this because we had said yesterday on the show, we said somebody's going to ask the question about Biden lying twice that inflation was 9% when he got into office. Mm-hmm. And so the question was asked, and we had said yesterday, she said she's going to try to, the question will be asked, and she'll try to blame Trump.
Uh-huh.
And say something like, well, yes, what the president was trying to say is the inflation and all the behavior that caused inflation started in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. Well, she didn't say the word Trump, I don't believe, but here's what she did say.
All right.
I'm going to ask you about how the president talks about inflation. So 2 times over the past 2 weeks, the president said inflation was 9% when he came into office. Is the president misleading Americans on that, or does he just not realize that inflation was 1.4% when he came
So, and thank you for the question, because I know that we got a lot of incoming on this yesterday. And
no blank, Sherlock. Uh-huh. Let's continue.
look, what the president was, the point that he was making is that the factors that caused inflation was in place when he walked into the administration.
Yeah. It was Trump's fault. Just as we nailed it yesterday. Because you can't, it's the only thing you can do. You can't say you caused it. It has to be Trump. Why didn't they go all the way back to Bush? It's Bush's fault. I mean, it was the in thing to do, remember, in 2008, 9, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014.
I think it was, if memory serves me correctly, I think they used that until 2013 or maybe early 2014.
I think it actually was 2004 because it was, I inherited this, I inherited this, I inherited this. Yeah, okay. You also voted for this, voted for that. Yeah. Those are the things that we look at. We don't have short-term memory problems. I do, but not in this regard. What was I saying? And the whole thing is that it was predictable. Because how do you answer the question? He's doubling down. He says it twice. That's a lie. Well, what he meant to say was, that's not what he said. He said it was 9% when he came into office.
Right. He didn't say the factors had been set up.
No.
He said it was 9%.
If he had said, it still would have been predictable. It still would have been a lie.
Yes.
That these things were in place. What drove us to that peak inflation of over 9% was all of the things that the previous administration did. That would be false too, but it would be in line with what she just said. She's scrambling, as they always are, every time he speaks. And, man, I cannot wait for the debates.
All right, so here I was yesterday. Remember, it's all putting on my political hat because debates are not about the substance. Debates are not about, okay, I'm going to be able to show the public the difference between myself and the other candidate. It can be, but that's not the only goal of debates, is to get the political advantage over the other person. Mm-hmm. So how the debates are framed are extremely important. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the Republicans have complained for the longest time is that all the moderators are liberal.
Right.
So when I woke up this morning and saw Trump agreed to the debates, and I saw the stipulations that Biden put in, which was basically, and it was, by the time I had looked at it, CNN and ABC, I'm screaming.
Yeah.
I'm screaming at that point for a number of reasons. Well, and I was my friends know because we had the text stuff going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I used the word idiot. Got to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Because the only thing you care about is getting the political advantage, which means what you want. And Trump has a strong case for this. And later on, an hour later, he came out and said, well, no, I want to debate in October with Fox News. and Brett Barrett. Now, that seemed to get lost in all of this during the day, but he put that out in True Social. So I don't know where it is now. I'm just telling you my initial reaction. Because Trump against Biden, whether there's an audience or not. Now, I would still, if I was Trump, I would have gone for the audience, because the reason they don't want the audience has got nothing to do with the audience interrupts and there's things that the American public doesn't hear. It's because Biden is distracted by the audience.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's simple as that.
Right.
So I would say, I would say we need to keep this. We need to keep this in front of the American people. And this has always been the tradition of the debates, and the American people should be able to be there in that room. Because the reason the Democrats are doing it is because they know Biden will be distracted, and they don't want that to happen. The second thing is by limiting it to basically ABC, CBS, CNN, or NBC. No. Sorry. And he could have, and it would have been very easy to sell it. Hey, yeah, I'll debate. We'll debate twice, but no, sorry, you don't get to, I said anytime, any place. I didn't say any conditions that Biden wanted. And so you say, no, this is what's fair. One with Fox News and these and these people, and then you can choose whoever you want, in the first debate. June, you get this. September, I get Fox News or Fox News or Newsmax, whatever you wish to pick. And you say, that's fair. Why? Because every independent who may vote for Trump would say, that's fair. I don't know why he jumped on it so quick. You always act. This is Eric Harley's rule of campaigning. You always campaign as if you're 20 points behind.
Yep.
Everything matters. To put yourself in a situation where it is 2-1, and I mean it's Biden and it's the anchor. Nowhere in the rules that Biden put out was there the moderator can't interrupt. The moderator needs to ask the question and then let them go at it. Now, the one thing, though, I will say about turning the mics off is that means Biden has to fill the entire minute of an explanation, and he could get in trouble there big time.
He's going to get in trouble, and it's going to be wherever this is, there's going to be several moments where he loses it. And the one thing Trump knows is how to push his buttons, but now you don't even have to push his buttons. I think there's two things. If there's an audience, he gets distracted. If there's no audience, he gets lost.
Yeah, So the audience, that was I'm telling you, my first reaction was no, because my second reaction was exactly what you said when I thought about it a little bit. But so I went, okay, that's how they may be playing it, that if there's silence and Biden just has to monologue and ad lib, he can't do that for 10 seconds.
The moment he gets lost and then tries to, the thing, he can't do that and expect to come away with a victory at a debate.
But one of the biggest complaints of Republicans have been the moderators, because how you form a question, because I can guarantee that what's the first question going to be? Mr. Trump, do you believe the 2020 election or the 2020 election was stolen, and will you accept the results of the 2024 election? They don't want to get into any of the issues. And, and so how they form the questions, we saw it with even at Fox News with, I'm going to say Chris Matthews, with Chris Wallace. When he asked the question to Biden and continuing the lie of Charlottesville. And so if you're going to allow that to happen once, then you make sure that the next debate has moderators, and especially the one that's closer to the election. If the first one's CNN, well, then you say, well, the next one's going to be Fox in September. And if we get Fox in September, then, they may want to talk more about the actual issues at hand. You and I have talked about this many times. One of the reasons that we don't like doing TV is the fact that so many of the questions that I've done enough TV interviews where the questions that you're asked are loaded.
Mm-hmm.
That put you on the defensive immediately.
Right.
Why are you a racist? Then you have to respond, I'm not a racist. And we are, smart enough because we've been in this business long just to go, excuse me, don't call me a racist because the Democrats have been practicing identity politics, judging people by groups. The groups are in, not as an individual. That's where racism begins, and then just pound them on it. But the way you frame a question can always put the candidate on the defensive, and if it's on CNN, they won't be doing that to Biden, most likely. That's how you're thinking. They won't be doing it to Biden. They'll be doing it to me. So the next one has to be, if it's friendly towards Biden, and these are absolutely Biden voters that are the moderators, the next one has to be people that will vote for me as the moderator. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
Or both debate has a liberal and a conservative on it. But again, when the networks pick them, well, we're going, all right, we've picked a Republican. Mitt Romney is a Republican. I'm just throwing him out as an example.
And the Democrat is Liz Cheney.
Right. No, that would be it. Right. It's going to be Jake Tapper and Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
And therefore we have balance.
Yeah.
And so, again, I don't know where it is right now because my initial anger was gone after Trump posted on Truth Social that, no, we want one in Fox in October, and Brett Baer and Martha McCallum is who he, said he wants. That didn't seem to go viral at all. That didn't seem to get any buzz whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where either campaigns are. But to accept all the conditions of the other party, again, the initial thing was, I'm not afraid to debate you.
Yeah.
But then the actual debate comes along where both debates are run by people who hate you, and that's not in your advantage to do that.
No, it's not. You don't have to. You don't even have to debate. But putting Biden up there for any amount of time, and I'm wondering what the play is by his campaign, what the thought is.
Desperation. Because I didn't think
you can't look. Yeah. You can't at this point now with everything working against him. You can't look like you're afraid. You can't flinch.
I think, how the editing was so bad? I think that was done on purpose. I really think, remember, when he's debated before, he hasn't been as bad as he can be. Whatever, you look at the State of the Union. Now, again, the State of the Union, because he lost it, and didn't relate on the topics to people, but he was more coherent there than he was even giving, reading a speech than he was, than he is if he attempts to ad-lib at all.
Right.
Now, he's going to attempt to ad-lib here, but he did not melt. Trump lost the first debate that he went up against because Trump was just all over the place. And this was back in 2020. And so... like I said, I think that's what they're thinking is because you saw how bad the edits were of his announcement of the debate.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sitting back going, they're trying to get the Republicans to believe that Biden can't do it at all. And they made those. That's my conspiracy theory. And that's why they made those edits so bad. The edits don't have to be that bad.
No.
They don't have to be that shaky. You and I both know that.
Right.
As soon as I saw that, I went, okay, they're up to something here.
Right. Yeah.
They're doing something here because it's just not, we had the technology, they had the technology to not make it look like, okay, Biden is so incompetent, we have to cut it 5 times in 13 seconds. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I know Robert Kennedy Jr. Was out and about saying, you know, wait a minute, you're keeping me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And by CNN standards, he won't be in. Didn't seem like there was a big outcry other than him. Did you hear it?
I didn't know. I didn't see that at all. You know, it gets back down to what the actual numbers are. You see these polls that show him in double digits, but the question is he now and will he be on November 5th anywhere near double digits?
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here this morning. What day is it? Oh, Thursday. Okay.
Thank goodness.
Every day just running in. Just so everybody knows, and we talk about this quite a bit because it really is something that is unique. And for me, really just probably happened recently is that we don't do separate shows anymore. It's not like, okay, there's a Tuesday show. It's like we finish the show.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we go home, we sleep, whatever, and it continues in our mind. And then you and I have our pre-show meeting, and we just continue where we were yesterday. It's almost as if the show never ends. It's just a continuation.
No, that's true.
And we have a long break. Looking at, I saw this here, this article from Dan McLaughlin in National Review after, Biden challenged. By the way, Biden didn't challenge Trump. Trump initially challenged Biden.
Yeah, right.
But I'm reading this here from Dan McLaughlin, and you and I both said this. We didn't think there would be a debate unless he was desperate. We believe the New York Times Siena poll caused desperation. Oh, I don't want to speak for you. This is what I think, that the New York Times Siena poll caused some desperation, and whatever internal polls they're doing, and the whole Israeli thing is just blowing up in their face, and they don't see inflation getting better. The news, really coming out this week that you're not going to see rates drop. There isn't going to be any bright news on the economy. And the person normally in a debate, the person who is behind is the one who wants the debate. The person who is in front normally does not. And I think there was a sense of panic, but they also thought they might be able to call Trump out because Trump might not want to debate if his numbers are so favorable that he says, I don't think so. Now, the interesting thing was Biden basically going after Trump for saying Trump wouldn't debate in the primary. Neither would Biden.
Well, again, before the New York Times Siena poll, and I do agree, it has been a week of panic reactions. And since that came out, they've had to walk things back. You see, different announcements. Biden floating yesterday an executive order on the border that they will shut the border down after 4,000 people have come across. And it's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. It's not going to happen. You can say you're going to do that, but you're actually not going to do it. But that was part of what we said, and we've been talking about this week. What do? You go back and you undo it. We made the joke, what is Biden going to announce? He's building a wall. He needs $100 billion for building a wall, or he's going to spend $100 billion. from the Department of Education, of course. That has nothing to do with building walls. It's a part of an education infrastructure.
He'd take it out of the DEI funding.
Because there will be equity in choosing the contractors. I don't know how it works, but it's their playbook. We don't have to know how it works. And those are the things you look for is, all right, what's going to happen? You know, the whole 9% interest or 9% inflation thing and doubling down on that. And we said yesterday, well, of course, the thing they have to do is they have to blame Trump. And so what they'll say is, yeah, 9% coming in, it's Trump's fault. And that's exactly what Karine Jean-Pierre did yesterday. She said, well, the conditions that led to the 9% were set up by the previous administration, basically. It's Trump's fault, exactly as we predicted. It's extremely predictable because they are desperate right now. They're desperate right now to get back on top. So the move on announcing the border thing, administratively, executive order thing, then Karine Jean-Pierre on the 9% inflation, the debates thing, all of this, they are absolutely chaotically scrambling as a result of the New York Times Siena poll.
But think about this. I mean, this is where I had my political consultant hat on big time yesterday, to the point where I was telling or a friend of mine said, she said to me, you guys ever think of being political consultants? I said, yeah, but Eric has priced us out.
Yeah.
Eric, what are you at, like $1 billion?
Trillion.
Oh, trillion. Okay, he's at $1 trillion. We
inflation.
And by the way, we offered it to both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we used to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of our great listeners would get upset when we would give advice to Democrats, saying, don't give them advice. We said, don't worry, they'll never follow it. And so far, they have not.
And by the way, I would donate all $1 trillion to our national debt. I'm just joking. I wouldn't donate anything.
I'm going to say your side of it.
I wouldn't donate a dime. I don't give back.
My side would go to ensure that both in the White House and the Capitol Police building, they are supplied with plentiful cocaine.
Yeah, right.
You saw that story, right?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Like, oh, my God. It's every...
No, it's... And I saw that story, and I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I was reading Dan McLaughlin here, and he goes, because you and I said, unless, we said, we don't think a debate's going to happen unless they get very desperate. And I think over the last 2 weeks, they got very, very desperate. Mm-hmm. And what they didn't expect. They didn't expect at all. I don't think there would have been a debate if all of the lawfare wasn't blowing up in their face.
Right.
And it's blowing up in their face. And then with Israel, that's blowing up in their face. Inflation is blowing up in their in their face. And so I think the desperation set in. But he said, Dan McLaughlin here, National Review, I warned last fall that we shouldn't assume any debates would happen this year. And that Trump ducking the Republican debates was forfeiting the high ground that could be used to make it costlier for Biden to back out. I believe we will have debates when I see them. We have one candidate whose doctors don't want him walking, and one whose lawyers don't want him talking. Oh, I like that. That is a solid point.
Yeah.
That said, there is political risk in appearing afraid to debate. The recent movement of the two candidates towards an agreement to debate suggests that both of them realize that they need to appear willing to debate the other. Also, the side that thinks it is losing knows that there is more risk in not debating, and Trump's persistent lead in the polls have started to sink in enough to worry Team Biden. But consider the incentives to bail out. Start with the fact that the candidate who's ahead won't want to debate. Right now, that's Trump. By fall, it might be Biden. In the primaries, it was both of them. Either way, the incentive to debate drops on one side in proportion to how it rises on the other. Sure, neither candidate will want to take the heat for pulling out, but these are not exactly two candidates who have been unwilling to break norms in the past when they thought it would help them. Biden has some gall in hitting Trump for ducking primary debates when Biden did the same thing. Either will gleefully use some pretext to claim that the debate system is being rigged against them, and their supporters will eat it up. Moreover, both campaigns have thus far operated as if firing up their own supporters is the only thing in this election. I would disagree with that. I actually think the Republicans, because are on the issues. Trump at a rally may be trying to rally his base at the rallies, but on the issues, it's Republicans that are crossing I'd say across party lines. Maybe not to go that far. There may be some leakage from Democrats, but it's getting the independents.
Right, yeah.
Which I guess would be crossing party lines because you're crossing.
Yeah, going outside party lines,
right,
I guess.
Going outside,
yeah.
Right. So even aside from the pre-existing Biden narrative that the president shouldn't dignify his opponents with the platform, there will be no shortage of available pretext because both sides will be jockeying to control how the debates are staged. Biden has finally done what Republican campaigns have flirted with for years. He's rejecting the role of the Commission on Presidential Debates. That means everything about the debates, timing, moderators, rules, crowds, third-party access to the stage will be negotiated directly between the two campaigns. And then he goes through, all the things that may be, sources of disagreement. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that sort of came out by the end of the day, that there's still a lot to negotiate here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll believe it when we actually get to debate night. The problem is going to be between now and then for the Biden camp, between now and then, the problems he's having with his cognitive issues, those aren't going to be remedied. And I don't know how you set him up in a situation where there are no notes. You can't take your notes with you. There's no teleprompter. Because here's the difference between, I guess, past political seasons and debates and this one. You could apply that. You could apply this somewhat in 2020, but it's gotten worse. Biden is defiant with the people who agree with him. And that defiance is what drives him, and his mind to just go off track. And if there's any sense of, that a hardline question, even from somebody who's liberal as a moderator, Biden, there's a reason he's not talking to the liberal media now. He just won't be able to control that. And if you're part of the Biden team, I don't know how you avoid it. I don't know what you do between now and then, except try and set up an impossible debate that you believe Trump won't agree to.
Well, I think that's why they did that yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's, you throw it out there and then have him say, well, no, I want one here, one there. And then you just say, well, he's afraid to debate me. He said anytime, anywhere. And he's, blah, 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 blah. And they're just going to go down that road. But everybody knows a fair debate. You pick one, we'll pick one. And the independents know that.
Yeah, they yes. And that's why when Trump agreed to it, and then, like I said, why did he do that? I was just livid. Mm. And that's when I put on my political consultant hat going, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then I didn't see it till later on in the afternoon, the True Social thing where he said, no, I want to debate with Fox in October. And so I think that Trump's going to say, no, I want more debates. He's only agreeing to two. To be fair, we need Fox. We need this. All right. I'm not agreeing to the debates because I think we need more. We're talking once a month. The public needs to know it. So I think the campaign might come out in the next day or two and start talking about the fact that Biden is afraid to debate every month, and he's afraid to have a fair debate where you have moderators on both sides. Trump can still do that and win. Because I got somebody who, that when I was talking to a few of my friends, yesterday on this, and they were hearing my instant anger. And then I said, okay, I got to calm down. But still, I kept using the phrase, but still, yesterday. But I think that, because someone pointed out, yeah, but he said anywhere, anytime. So that anywhere, anytime doesn't mean that you get to set the rules of the actual debate.
Right.
Because what if, I could say, what if Biden said we will only have a pro-Hamas, anti-Israel audience?
Right.
Would Trump have to agree to that? They go, okay, good point. I said, no, Trump can, then again, that might backfire against Biden.
Well, there's the thing, too, is that so many things, everything right now is working against Biden.
Yes.
But Trump is the one who has him in the corner. So if you keep that in mind and approach it, and I agree, that the next logical play, if they try and say, well, Trump refuses to debate us, you throw down the gauntlet. We want one every month, and you choose we'll do 6 total. You choose 3, we choose 3. Throw a huge number out there.
And I'm more okay than I initially was with having no audience, because then Biden will have silence. I would say you need to give not a minute to answer a question. This is what I would request with Trump, and you can promote it, that you want more transparency. Number one, the moderators, once they ask the question, cannot interrupt.
Right.
You get full 2 minutes. 2 minutes, not one. We want to give the candidates, Trump should come out and say, I want the candidates to be able to give the full explanation of what they believe and not be cut off because of time. So I would give 2 full minutes and the ability of each candidate, if they're done with the answer, to give that extra time to the other candidate.
Right.
Talked about that Trump should go, I want a border wall. I see the rest of my time to Biden go.
Yeah.
You give him as much time, with complete silence where he has to monologue, not for 1 minute, but 2 minutes. And that's and you can promote that and people go, yeah, that's fair. But as you said, 6 debates, 3, you can pick 3, I can pick 3.
Right.
And no moderator can interrupt once they ask the question.
Right. Exactly.
You get to answer it, and the public will decide whether you're BSing, whether you're not answering the question. Let the public decide.
Right.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have 2 options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. As I've said before about the debates, that it's not about substance. everybody, and I guess there are some people that I love that they'll probably a week before the election, here are the undecided people.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
trying to figure out where Trump stands on the issues versus Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's be honest. You're a moron.
You're not paying attention.
You're not paying attention.
on this one, you're really not paying attention.
Yeah.
It's not like one of the candidates is brand new and you don't even know. Come on. One of the third-party candidates is a Kennedy. Come on.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading Karl Rove had an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Biden doesn't seem to recognize he's in big trouble. He told a California fundraiser Friday that a poll had him carrying Wisconsin by 6 points. Another had him up 4 nationwide, and all the rest are basically tied. It could be that he was putting on a brave face or simply in denial. Democratic strategists are more clear-eyed. I don't know if we've talked about this now. I'm sure I know we probably both saw it. James Carville, who quarterbacked Bill Clinton's first run for the White House, complains that Mr. Biden is surrounded by Ivy League economist academic types who don't understand the world people are living in. David Axelrod, Barack Obama's strategist, is concerned Mr. Biden is making a terrible mistake by not empathizing with the way people are experiencing the economy. And it's something that you and I have talked about. They keep coming out they're always saying the economy's great. Why don't people see it? The economy's great. People don't see it. And we're like, even yesterday when they said, talking about, yes, great news, you can't do that.
No.
Especially when you've had inflation this long. Now, the James Carville thing, did you see that one where he was just cursing? He lost it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just like someone just took a phone camera or he just set the phone camera down on a table and said, I'm going to rant. Now, he cursed and everything. We can't play it.
Right.
But it was one of the funniest damn things I've ever seen coming from Carville. I was dying laughing.
Yeah, losing his mind,
He's just losing his mind about what's going on in the Biden campaign. So, like I said, that's probably, you look at it, it was the desperation that they're feeling right now. And I really think it's the combination of inflation, the debacle of what's going on in college campuses. Biden can't make up his mind. I think Politico had a article saying Democrats have no idea where the president's going on the weapons to Israel.
Well, exactly.
Democrats can't. They're completely confused as to what's going on there. But I think what underlies everything is lawfare has completely backfired on the Democrats, and they thought that was a slam dunk. And you think in the last month, the Fonnie Willis thing falling apart, the classified documents thing falling apart, and everything is following the same thing, that rules and regulations weren't followed, rogue DAs, rogue judges, with the classified documents case, a two-tier system of justice. Biden gets it one way, Trump gets it another. If you would have told me that all these 4 cases, basically all of them are falling apart.
Yeah.
And that a month ago, if you told me that the greatest campaign strategy for Trump is the Democrats' lawfare, if you had told me that a month ago, I would have said, nah, come on. But that's exactly what has happened here.
Well, it has. And certainly the Biden camp, the Democrats see this with so many in the GOP showing up and this week, and we've talked about that. And you really have to wrap your head around how big that is for the GOP. First of all, to be motivated by anything. is a big deal. But to show up in the way that they did, taking clearly taking direction from Eric and Gary on Red Eye Radio, as we talked about it and suggested it last week, and it happened in a matter of days. But then you talk about the desperation since the New York Times Siena poll that came out on Monday, and that was directly in line with J.D. Vance, the other GOPers showing up, the Speaker of the House actually showing up. Those are big deals, and then you see the inflation thing. They wanted to jump on inflation, and I think they're trying to reshape this inflation thing. And one of the indicators is you had one strategist yesterday that said she predicts 3 rate cuts by the end of the year. And then I said to myself, first of all, I couldn't, after I stopped laughing. And here's the quote. Megan Shue, head of investment strategy at Wilmington Trust, predicts 3 rate cuts this year starting in July. Makes the case, listen to this, excluding lagging components from the consumer price index, such as housing, it's true they are lagging, auto insurance, and medical insurance, Shue argues that inflation is running at below 2%, the Fed's target. So if you take those major things, what you have to pay for rent, auto insurance, and medical insurance out of it, you've got plenty of money. That's the delusional state. Now, I know what she's saying as an economist looking at it, saying, well, those are lagging, that won't catch up until later. Well, hold on a second. If they're lagging and they're still at high rates, that means inflation is still ahead of us, not good.
And how can she say that with the producer price index skyrocketing through the roof to the wholesale increase 6%?
Well, and that gets back to the cherry picking of all of this, and also the fact the idea would be, again, out of desperation. I won't count out now the Fed lowering the interest rates once or twice between now and November 5th. In this delusional state to try and make it seem like we're on target, because if you're doing that, if it's what would be Jerome Powell's Hail Mary? Interest rate cut. It's not going to be raising the interest rates like you should be doing to get on top of inflation. They're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Lowering rates, 1/4 point here, 1/4 point there, and then and then the market gets, drunk like they did yesterday, and everybody's going, oh, yeah, we're back. And we're not back. In fact, by their own admission, when you include all those lagging elements, and housing especially, then you can't make the case, because what does it come down to? Always comes back to the spending power of the American family, which is being depleted. You're ignoring the fact that 20% have maxed out their credit lines, that delinquencies on these credit lines are going up. The delinquencies on auto loans are going up. You're ignoring the big picture to cherry pick it down to something, well, if you take all of these things out of it, it's less than 2%. Well, that's insane. When you do that and you cherry pick something, you're living in a delusional state. You're seeing what you want to see. You're crossing your fingers and begging for Jerome Powell to do that. And I'm not saying he won't do it, because they might be in a delusional state or want to throw this, again, with all these desperate moves by this administration this week. It would not surprise me for Jerome Powell to make such a desperate move at some point, once or twice, 2/4% and interest rates, 0.25 interest rate cuts between now and November 5th, out of a delusional mindset.
But he would do it based on the fact that, okay, the economy's slowing down, so we can do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how he would justify it.
Yeah.
But inflation hasn't been tamed. Look, the producer price index, I don't know how that doesn't come back to bite you. And that's why I was emphasizing yesterday that, look, it may not, that was April. So there's a lag in that. And so April may be a little bit lower. April could be fine, but the producer price index would probably be affecting the overall inflation rate come, May, June, and July. So her saying to cut it is ignoring the producer price index as if the wholesale cost that they were completely off by, which is at 6%, isn't going to affect the inflation rate over the next couple of months.
Well,
I just don't see it.
And again, you're ignoring stagflation. Because the economy slowing is one thing. The economy slowing and inflation actually coming down to 2% or lower on the big picture is what you would be looking for. And that's where the Fed would make a move on lowering interest rates. But I can see Jerome Powell in a delusional state, act of desperation, cherry picking it the way that this analyst did and saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're going to cut rates 1/4 point here."
Hyping, this is from Karl Rove, hyping his accomplishments has not lifted Mr. Biden in the polls, nor has emphasizing Mr. Trump's threat to abortion rights or democracy, unless there's a measure on a battleground state's ballot to drive issue-specific turnout. Abortion isn't likely to be a decisive issue Democrats believed it would. And 53% of independents told NPR, PBS, and the Marist poll on April 25th that Mr. Biden would weaken our democracy in the second term, while only 42% said that of Mr. Trump. 2 points. The poll that showed, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that 57% believe that Trump is being targeted politically in all these court cases, and the one that shows that people believe by a 9-point margin in the NPR poll that Mr. Biden would weaken the democracy worse than Trump.
Right.
That's what happens when you harp something for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people look at it and go, well, that's not the case. He's already been. Bill Maher said it. Trump's been in office. I think it was Bill Maher. Trump's been in office was in office for 4 years. What did he do that showed you he was going to be a Hitler?
Right.
You can't make that case. It wasn't as if he hasn't served and you don't know what he would do. What is it that would make him Hitler? What would it that would make him a dictator? Name it.
Right.
You can't. And that's the problem. People have already experienced the reality of Trump, and now with Biden in, they're actually looking back at Trump fondly.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is that Bill Maher is the one that said, hey, early on with Trump, we called all those other guys Hitler, but this guy really is Hitler. Somebody was circulating the clip with Keith Olbermann on Bill Maher's HBO show back in early, was it late 2016? It was after the 2016 election. I don't know if it was early 2017 or during the interim period after the election in late 2016. But they were talking about how that the election wasn't legitimate, and someone making the case that, all right, these guys call all the Trump people election deniers, but here they are in, again, whenever it was, late 2016, early 2017, being election deniers. But the difference is that with Bill Maher on the whole Hitler thing, he went from saying this guy really is Hitler to what did he actually do that demonstrated that he was actually Hitler? And there's the difference, because if it's at that level, that wide swing, that's a 180. That's a complete 180 politically. Not that Bill Maher's pro-Trump, but in terms of the toxicity of Trump. The toxicity of Trump, for many people, is gone. And part of that is people are desperate to get back to a good economy, and they look at the things that he actually did as opposed to what they said about him, and things are changing, definitely.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara, reading from Karl Rove's analysis. in the Wall Street Journal. Biden strategists have to get it through their heads that swing voters are not left-wing Democrats. They don't want a transformational Democratic president, but a reassuring transitional figure they believe they were backing in 2020. Mr. Biden, though, does have, and this is what we talked about the other day, rallies don't win elections.
Right.
He has a financial advantage that he's using to build an aggressive get-out-the-vote effort. While this won't give him 8 or 10 more points, it could boost him enough to win some states that are close today. Mr. Trump has yet to deploy a similar program on the GOP side. Financial constraints might keep him and the Republican Party from mobilizing a strong ground game that competes with the Democratic effort. I saw that more from Republicans the other day saying, all fine and dandy that you can draw 100,000 to a rally. That doesn't win elections. Ground game does. The Republicans don't have a ground game. That's the accusation going on. That is the one worry that simmers underneath the radar right now.
If they'll use the ground game they had in the battleground states in 2016, they can definitely have an advantage. How the ground game has changed would be one question I have. But it's you've got to get out there. There has to be boots on the ground in every neighborhood, but especially in those battleground states. And can you get that done between now and November 5th? Don't expect that the overall big picture is going to do all of that heavy lifting for you. You're going to have that ground game.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome to the show. My first instincts might be correct.
Yeah.
It took Republican National Committee co-chair Lara Trump mere hours to deem the two presidential debates that Donald Trump had agreed to as, quote, rigged. On Wednesday, Trump agreed to 2 debates with President Joe Biden. Sean Hannity spent the first 20 minutes of his Fox News show railing against the upcoming debates while demanding changes such as no notes, no teleprompter to the format agreed to by Trump, who had said last month he would debate Biden anytime, any place. We'll do it any way you want, Joe. Lara Trump joined Hannity and said that her father-in-law called their bluff by agreeing to what she called rigged debates. Calling their bluff, she insisted, while noting the scales are always tipped against the former president. But the thing is, they're trying to collude, the media mob and Joe Biden. They dictate all the conditions, all the rules, and Donald Trump gets no say. Sorry, that's not how it ever worked. Well, that was my first reaction. Mm-hmm. So the question is, why did Trump open his mouth and say he would agree to it?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, just when you say, we've said this before, just when you say to yourself, he's campaigning really well, then this.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where it all pans out, where it lands.
Yeah, he can still win this, by the way. He can come back and just say, nope, sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, look, he's got Biden in the corner. Biden has Biden in the corner. Like a Roomba that's just kind of wandering around in a corner and keeps hitting a wall. Exactly like that.
Yeah, but Hannity has a point. As we've said before, can Biden have notes? Can he have a teleprompter to answer any question?
Look,
Can the moderators interrupt? I mean, there's a ton. If you're going to, and by the way, Trump can frame all of this and should have framed all of this yesterday, been prepared for this, instead of just saying, I agree. I'm just like, what the hell are you agreeing to? You're the one that's been railing for years that the debates are rigged with liberals and rules that don't favor you, and then you agree to conditions that are completely unacceptable to most Republicans. And I think independents, too, if you're looking for a fair debate. So I have a feeling he's going to be backing off in the next couple of days on this.
Well,
but I'm just
if Biden can read his answers, by the way, with the teleprompter, it's still bad. Why you would, if you're part of the Biden campaign, this demonstrates the desperation of where they are. He's bad with cards. He's bad with a prompter.
I agree with that, but you always, you said, this comes from you. You always campaign as if you're 20 points behind.
No, I'm not debating. I'm not debating you. I'm just saying that if you're part of the Biden campaign, man, you've got to be really desperate for this to happen now. This tells you how desperate they are since the New York Times Siena poll.
I agree with that, yes.
It's just unbelievable how they have every single day they put on display their desperation. They don't know where to go. They're in panic mode. They're in complete panic mode. And their candidate, like Shane Gillis described him, is a Roomba. He just wanders around. If I'm on that campaign, there is no way I allow him to go on a debate stage. If it were my call, it doesn't matter how bad the polls are. You debate in the public. You debate on social media. You make posts. You do because if you're going to do a prompter anyway, then just do it on social media.
But if you're desperate and know you're that far behind, then you agree to it, especially when you have the opposition candidate who will agree to every single one of your conditions that only favor his side.
Well, has he agreed to every single one of the conditions?
He did initially, yeah.
Okay, but they backed away from that?
Well, he's saying he wants more debates, but Biden has so far said no. It's just those two debates on CNN and ABC.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, that's why by the time you got to Hannity last night, the co-chair of the RNC's on there saying, well, he called their bluff, but it's rigged. Come on, stop it. Organize your damn campaign, for God's sakes. Because this is where you say, are you as serious as a Republican voter and the independent voters that don't want to see Joe Biden? Are you committed to this or what? Are you organized or what? Because if you're not organized here to know that this might be coming down the pike and how you would respond, and then you're saying he called the bluff, but he called their bluff. He's accepted it, but the whole thing is rigged because because my father-in-law agreed to every condition that Biden had. Well, you got a problem.
Yeah, fix it.
That's like I said. That was my initial reaction. Well, you can fix it still. You can still fix it, but it just shouldn't have happened that way. Should have said, sure, we'll agree, but. No, you can't. You're afraid. Sure, but if the crowd, don't worry about it. But no, if you get one debate with your preferred network, I get one with my preferred network. That's fair. Everybody agrees that's fair.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It'd be so interesting to see where this thing pans out. I hope there is a debate. Man, I've been crossing my fingers for a debate. Make it happen.
Let's go to Mark in Carson City, Nevada. Mark, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi, Mark.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hey, I just want to let you know if that third debate was even made, you know the Welch out of it. You know that. I do. I mean, you were talking about that, and I said even if the third debate with like Hannity, that'll be the third one. You know they'll figure a way to get out of it. So you know, it's the character of this man. Think about that. Sold out our soldiers in Afghanistan, and all those people that helped them. Sold out Israel. Selling out our country every day with the southern border. I mean, why would you even trust these people? And you're going to go to Atlanta, Fulton County, CNN with Dana Bash and Jake Tapper controlling that? No, that's just a bad decision. You know what? Just be a good man. Go to your rallies and make sure the ground game works. It's so disgraceful. I mean, I hope. Just hope.
No, I mean that. No, by the way, Mark, you sound like just like the frustration that I initially had. You're breaking up on us, but thanks for the call. This sounds like the frustration I first had when he agreed to it, and I saw the conditions. I'm like, well, this has got to change. And then I saw Trump say, well, I also want to debate with Fox, and we'll see whether he goes that route. Say, no, I want once a month. If he's not going to agree to actually be out there in front of the American people, no. And also I would want these conditions: no notes, no teleprompter, and questions. I would ask for responses of 2 minutes, not a minute, but a 2-minute response. Like I said, the crowd probably initially I said because this isn't about learning anything new. Nobody's going to learn anything new by this. You just want to for both sides it's political. Otherwise, Biden wouldn't put all these things in there. And you saw that the mainstream media, oh, yeah, the crowd thing is good. And yeah, we like the conditions. This is all positive because the American people will learn. The American people are going to learn squat in the debates.
Mm-hmm.
It's all politics. And since you know it's all politics, you never give the other guy the advantage. If you want to do it on even ground, fine. You on CNN, I get Fox. But you don't agree to it immediately and then have to backtrack later on. Even though I believe they can successfully do it, it was just a major error yesterday. And then have Lara Trump say, we called his bluff, but it's all rigged. Don't do that.
Yeah. Now you got to throw the gauntlet down. Tell them you want 6. You want 1 every month. And we choose half, you choose. We choose 1, you choose 1. We choose 1, you choose 1. And repeat that over and over again. And because really, ultimately, I think this is the desperation by the Biden campaign isn't to get Trump on a debate stage. It's to challenge him to something he won't agree to. But you come back and double down.
Right.
And play that game until the end. You know, because they will. They'll try and, well, it's, he's afraid to debate us. Double down and do it every day. We want 6 debates. There's still time for 6 debates. If we've got 6 days left before the election, there's still time for 6 debates. Let's do it. Come on. We pick half, you pick half. Go. We want to debate to make sure that everyone in the country sees it. Let's do it. Come on. We pick the moderators. You pick the moderators. You get half, we get half. Let's go.
Yeah. Because all you're trying to do is convince independents.
Yep.
All right, that'll be fair.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I said, it seems like my initial reaction agrees with the co-chair of the RNC.
Mm.
It was like, come on. But Trump agreed to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which you just shake your head going, what? That's why my first thing I screamed was when I saw it, idiot! But you can repair it, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a loss. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's What I Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, we'll hear some of the testimony. The Republicans having their weaponization weaponization of government hearing yesterday. They had on Michael Cohen's ex-attorney. And by the way, he was deposed by Bragg early on. And now the question is, will he be, if the judge doesn't give a direct verdict, which is there is no evidence of a crime here, will the defense call him? And will they be able to call him? Because he had lots to say, and we'll have that coming up following the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, this entire thing, the more it plays out in the media, the worse it is for the left. Which again, if you need proof of that, the GOP showing up. The GOP shows up far too less than we would like. Less often than we would like. And when they do show up, you know they've got their mindset on it. Not only do they believe that this benefits Trump, they believe it benefits the party by them being there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen them the way you saw them in numbers this week.
Did you see Romney coming out against them being there?
Yeah. Well, of course.
And then at the same point saying, well, Biden should have pardoned Trump for any federal crimes, and he should have, verbally gone after, he should have pressured the Democratic prosecutors not to do anything. Yet he criticizes, he's basically saying it's a rogue judge and a rogue prosecutor, but Republicans shouldn't support the president on that. Romney's just go.
Yeah.
Go. We're done. Bye. Go.
Yeah, go ride your fence somewhere else.
Yeah.
Ride it off into the sunset, would you?
Get a ranch.
Yeah.
Go ride your fence somewhere else, not in the U.S. Senate.
You and Liz Cheney, go start a ranch together, would you?
God, she's just so horrible.
Well, it's all the critical thinking out there. Well, it's wrong with you. Nobody cares. You're done. Get out.
Well, look, it's obvious that, when she came out, we had talked about this a little bit yesterday, when she came out and went after Mike Johnson and said, oh, now he's supporting somebody basically who, cheated on their wife and had sex with allegedly is in trial for having sex with the porn star, which he isn't. I mean, she was actually wrong on that. And I'm like, here is somebody who will not actually look at the legalities of this case, which is actually the same thing that she did with the January 6th committee. She didn't look and she did not want, and this is the criticism that we have for her when she claims she's a conservative. If you don't believe in due process and you don't care about the law, then you're not a conservative. And by the way, somebody has to call her out. Just don't insult her. Call her out specifically on that. Mm-hmm. You don't believe in due process. You did not call for in the January 6th committee for the defense to be able to cross-examine the witnesses and the evidence that you brought forth. You cannot be a conservative and say due process doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the same thing here. She did the same thing. I went, here she goes again. Mm-hmm. She is so easy to tear apart. Republicans need to do it.
Yep.
Instead of just calling her a rhino, explain what she's actually doing wrong, as we did during the January 6th committee, which nobody could debate against because we all know they didn't allow cross-examination of the witnesses and the evidence by Republicans.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's something that's happened. I think a couple of things that are going on right now with the GOP. You have a handful of them that are vying for the VP slot. So they want to be front and center in support for Trump. But there's something else going on, too, and that is as a group, you better get it together. If you want to win elections and be able to get at least part of your agenda done, you better get it together. And in order to maintain that, assuming you win the House, you win the Senate, and Trump wins the White House, then you're going to have to maintain that control at the midterm, because 2 years isn't going to be enough. So that means after you win, then you're campaigning for that next election, which is the midterm, which means you've got to get some stuff done, which means you've got to get it together as a party. And if you don't see that, then you need to get out. You need to do what Romney is doing. You need to do what the people of Liz Cheney's state said she needed to do. You need to get out. If you can't bring it together. I don't care about disagreements in the party. In fact, I welcome the disagreements within the party.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it in the hallways, work it out in the hallways. You should be passionate about it too. You don't have to walk the politically correct line of, well, we're working on a framework and blah blah. I don't need to hear that even. I want to hear what your conviction is at every turn. I have no problem with that. But in the end, you work it out as a party so that you can keep winning elections and get stuff done.
Setting the standard for America. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Reading here from CBS News. In Michael Cohen's testimony against Donald Trump, a possible defense witness emerges. During Michael Cohen's testimony again in former President Donald Trump's trial Tuesday, questioning turned to a series of 2018 exchanges between Cohen and his lawyer named Robert Costello. Cohen said he spoke to Costello about an FBI raid, an investigation that would ultimately end with his guilty plea to federal charges later on this year. Emails shown to the jury depicted Costello as a back channel of communications for Cohen while he was under investigation, someone who could relay messages to President Trump via his attorney. The back channel was Bob Costello to Rudy to President Trump. Cohen said on the stand, "Sleep well tonight. You have friends in high places." Cohen wrote in one email to Cohen describing a conversation he had with Giuliani reached by phone while Cohen was on the stand. Costello told CBS News he had recently received a call from Trump's lead attorney, Todd Blanche. Would he be called as a witness? Costello said, "Maybe. I had a brief conversation with Blanche, but there was no commitment," adding the discussion was not witness prep. Still, Costello believes he will be called by the defense. Now, Costello was part of the witnesses in the weaponization of government hearing yesterday by the Judiciary Committee, and here's part of his opening statement.
My name is Bob Costello. I've been an attorney for 51 years, and I'm the former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, where I was deputy chief of the criminal division. I am not now, nor have I ever been, an attorney for Donald Trump, any of his family members, or any of his businesses. I've represented quite a number of high-profile individuals, but never Donald Trump. During the period April 2018 to July 2018, I represented Michael Cohen. Today, I can talk to you about what Michael Cohen told my law partner and me because Michael Cohen waived the attorney-client privilege at the request of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The reason was Michael Cohen had pled guilty to 8 felony counts in the Southern District and was seeking to lessen his sentence. And he thought he could be clever by going into the U.S. Attorney's Office and lying about cooperation. Michael Cohen went to the U.S. Attorney's Office and accused Rudy Giuliani and myself of conspiring to obstruct justice by tampering with a witness, namely Michael Cohen. The story, which they were floating at the time and his lawyers put out in the various newspapers, was that we had dangled a pardon under Michael Cohen's nose in order to keep him quiet so that he wouldn't testify against Donald Trump. When I received the call from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying, Bob, we'd like to talk to you about your representation of Michael Cohen, I said to them, can I presume that you guys are sitting there with a copy of the waiver of the attorney-client privilege? And they said, you presume correctly. I told them to scan it over to me, and once I received it, I'd be delighted to talk to them. And I did. I went down to 1 St. Andrews Plaza with a lawyer who had been the chief of the criminal division when I was deputy chief, Tom Fitzpatrick. And on the way into the office, he said to me, Bob, aren't you nervous? I said, what for? I'm going to tell the truth, and I have documentary evidence that corroborates me 6 ways from Sunday. I said, there's nothing to be nervous about. And in fact, I said, I'll bet you $10 I'll have these people laughing within 15 minutes. I won the bet. I went up and I sat with 2 assistant U.S. attorneys, Tom McKay and Nick Rose, as well as 2 FBI agents whose names, unfortunately, I don't remember. We had a grand old time. I explained our entire history with Michael Cohen through emails and text messages. I explained the many, many lies that Michael Cohen told us. Most especially, I told them that when we first met Michael Cohen in April of 2018, keeping in mind now that I read Michael Cohen's testimony from yesterday's trial in New York on the way down on the train, and virtually every statement he made about me was another lie, a lie that can be proven not just by me denying it, but by myself, Jeff Citron, or Rudy Giuliani, or emails or text messages. Virtually every statement that he made. What he tries to do is he cherry picks certain emails or text messages and tries to make them look like something else. The story he told yesterday was that Rudy Giuliani and I were somehow conspiring to try and keep him quiet, to try and keep him from flipping. That's the term we use in the trade for cooperating. That's ridiculous. The first day that we met with Michael Cohen at the Regency Hotel, at his request, and there's email correspondence that show this, we went up there. I had never met Michael Cohen before. I didn't have any idea who he was or what sort of problem he was in. I saw this guy in a conference room at the Regency Hotel marching back and forth like a tiger in a cage. He was absolutely manic. He looked like he hadn't slept in 4 or 5 days. And he kept on, he knew my partner, Jeff Citron, for 10 years. I didn't know the guy. He kept on pounding on the table throughout his speeches that day. Guys, I want you to know, I will do whatever the F I have to do. I will never spend 1 day in jail. He had to say that at least 10 times, maybe 20. It was his constant litany as he walked back and forth. So I said, Michael, sit down. We need to discuss what's going on here. He told us about the raid, that his offices had been raided, his home had been raided. And he said, I didn't do anything wrong, guys. I don't know what they're looking for. And I said, Michael, the people in the Southern District of New York are very smart people. They got a search warrant for a lawyer's office. You can't do that just by going to the U.S. Attorney. You need to go to Maine Justice and get approval from Maine Justice. You need to show them that you have proof that a crime has been committed and that the evidence of that crime is going to exist at the site to be examined. I said, so Michael, these people think that you did something wrong. What is it? I said, this is protected by attorney-client privilege, and it was until he waived the attorney-client privilege. I swear to God, Bob, I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, I'm cooperating with the special counsel. I'm cooperating with Congress. Of course, he forgot to tell us that he lied to Congress, but that was part and parcel of the way Michael Cohen is. So I sat him down and I said, look, Michael, clearly here, you're not the target. Nobody's ever heard of Michael Cohen, but you are the lawyer for President Trump, and clearly that's their target. And let me explain to you how things work. When they get a search warrant, they're looking to gather evidence. They already have evidence against you for something, but you haven't told us what it is. And they are going to roll over you. You're just a bump in the road. Their target is Donald Trump. So I want you to think carefully now. And by the way, up to this point, he had told us when he introduced himself to us that 2 nights before, He was on the roof of the hotel, of the Regency Hotel, seriously considering jumping off, committing suicide, because he couldn't handle the pressure of the legal problems that he saw coming his way. And what he wanted to find out from us that day was his escape route. That's what he called it. Guys, you have to tell me what my escape route is. What can I do to get out of this? And I did. My obligation as a lawyer at that point in time was to explain to him what his options were. Clearly, one of his options was to cooperate. And I said to him, I said, Michael, the way this works is if you have truthful information about Donald Trump, that's clearly what they're looking for, I can have all your legal problems solved by the end of the week. His response, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump. I said, Michael, I want you to think carefully about this. I probably came back to this subject 10 or 20 times during the 2-hour period. Every time I brought it up, every time he answered, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump. I said, Michael, whatever you have has to be truthful. If you think you can go in there and tell these people lies, you're crazy. It's going to backfire on you. You can't do that. So do you have anything on Donald Trump? Probably the 5th or the 6th time I got around to doing that, he said, well, I know that money is missing from the Trump inaugural ball. I said, is Donald Trump involved in that? No. Does Donald Trump know anything about that? No. I said, Michael, that's useless. You're not going anywhere with that. You asked me for your escape route. I'm telling you your escape route. All you have to do is be truthful if you have some real evidence on Donald Trump. His litany was the same all the time. I don't have anything on Donald Trump. This is exactly the opposite to what I saw him say on TV. He was telling the grand jury in Manhattan and the district attorney's office. He said, I went in there, I believe, if my memory is correct, 20 times, including 2 appearances in the grand jury, 18 times preparation sessions with the DA's office. I was sitting at home listening to this, and I said, that's nonsense. That's not what he told Jeff Citron and myself. And I decided at that point in time, I've got to make it known to both the defense and the prosecution what the real story is, who this guy really is. So I provided all this material to Donald Trump's lawyers, and I provided it to the Manhattan DA's office. And I asked for a meeting with District Attorney Bragg, because I wanted to go in there, let him look me in the eye, and let me explain all of the stuff that we had on Michael Cohen that showed that he's an inveterate liar. The guy can't be trusted. Bragg turned me down. But what he did say was, I'll let you have a meeting with the assistant district attorneys. Now, when the Trump people,
we need you just to
I'm sorry, when the Trump people
finish up quickly.
Heard about all of this, they insisted, as was their right under the law, that the DA put me before the grand jury.
Right.
So that I was scheduled for a Monday. On the Friday before, I gave the DA's office the courtesy of a Zoom conference for about an hour and a half. 8 assistant district attorneys and me on the other end. I explained, they didn't really ask me any questions. They just said, what do you want to say? Nice warm greeting for somebody who's trying to show them the right path quietly and privately so that they could correct their error before they made it. Here's what happened.
We'll stop there, Mr. Costello. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, they asked him questions later on, and one of the things that he said was that Cohen told him over and over again that Trump had nothing to do with the hush money payment made to Stormy Daniels.
Right.
Now, the problem is, you could tell by listening to this guy, and if you could see the video of the guy, you don't want him on the stand against you.
No.
You don't want him on.
Well,
you do not want him on the stand. That is one articulate lawyer who doesn't have. He's not involved in the politics of any of this.
And he also said that he could back it up with emails and text messages.
Right. Exactly.
Those are the things that I would look for in terms of, okay, your word against his, that kind of thing. And then, all right, do you have other witnesses that also encountered the same thing and can back up what you said? So he said, he spelled it out. It's not just me. I have other people who can attest to this, and I have text messages and emails.
So what you do today in the cross-examination is bring up what his lawyer has said publicly. And you ask him directly, your lawyer, your ex-lawyer, is stating you told him that. Is that true or not? Remember, he is already a convicted perjurer.
Right. And you remind
Michael
him
Cohen.
you
Right.
are under oath,
Right.
that whole thing. Yeah. You got to tell the truth here.
Now, it doesn't matter because anything Michael Cohen has said or Stormy Daniels they have not identified the crime.
Right.
But this, his testimony before the Judiciary Committee yesterday is something now the defense can use. Now, he said he has not been called as a witness yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they did have a discussion with him. They didn't coach me in any way. I just told them, this is what is going on. But
right.
his testimony would be damaging not only to Cohen, but to Bragg's office.
Right.
And that's what you want. If you're Trump's lawyers, that's what you want.
Right.
And you just wonder if there is going to be a direct verdict from this judge when it's all over, where this thing could be done in the next couple of days, where he just says, you haven't presented me any evidence. I wouldn't want him testifying against me.
No.
That lawyer we just
Right. Right.
He comes across as very articulate with all the evidence he needs to back up what he's saying.
And if the defense gets that evidence, they can totally roast Michael Cohen.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And so the things that Cohen said about Mr. Costello, if Costello has the as you said, the emails, text messages, everything he needs to show that Cohen was lying again, that's all you need.
That's it. I mean, that's the evidence. And if you have it in writing from Cohen, and I don't know why you would go and testify that you do without having that. You look at all the possibilities here, and you vet this whole thing, and what interest would he have in lying about it, coming forward and lying about it? Well, that's not gonna help him at all. You put yourself at risk. So this could be a valuable asset for the defense for Donald Trump.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning to all my buddies who texted me yesterday and said, what do you think about the NFL schedule? And my response, get a life. Jeez. The NFL schedule came out. You see this team's playing 3 away games. I don't care.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Here I am telling other people to get a life. Me.
I had this great realtor. She sold me the house that I live in now. She's really good. And every year, I get the Dallas Cowboys schedule on a little magnetic calendar for the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And I put it up there because Rose sent it to me. It's just she sends it to everybody that she's done. I'm on a mailing list. It's not that we have a special relationship, but it reminds me of buying the house, living there for 20 years, the whole thing. I can't tell you the last time that I looked at the calendar after I put it on the fridge? In fact, case in point, last year's calendar is still on the August page. So the schedules don't, I'm going to be able to watch when I'm able to watch if I'm willing to watch. It's interesting looking at it. You and I were talking, I think it was during a break, about what's going on with Netflix. They've secured some Christmas Day games.
They're carrying both Christmas Day games.
Yeah.
If you want to watch NFL football on Christmas Day, it's on Netflix only.
And, you and I kind of hashed that out, and it's like, well, is that a big day for watching? I guess for some families, maybe it's as big as Thanksgiving Day. Football was never it just, in the past, would depend on whether the Cowboys were in the running or not. And that's a big part of it.
Any holiday with NFL games that late in the season is a big deal in the NFL.
Yeah.
For the fans.
No doubt that the NFL sees it as that. But, I mean, for me, in terms of my interest in it, it's like, I look at the big picture on the business model of streaming sports. And I've been saying for a while that a streamer you're probably getting to the point where you're going to get a streamer come in with a big contract, make an offer on a big contract. The problem with that is right now, the money for those streamers is not great. Netflix has some cash. Paramount Plus has been losing, since day one. They're not doing real well. The shakeup at Paramount, their parent company, is indicative of that. But I think if you're going to do it, there has to be this Hail Mary of a play by a streamer. Now, the NFL probably looks at it and says, well, why would we agree to that? I mean, it would have to be something that brings the collective revenue together. And even back when it was all television, it wasn't on one network. It was on separate networks. You had different games on different networks. But I believe from a streamer standpoint, the business model is that, all right, we need to look into heavily investing into football. I don't know that it works on other sports. I can't tell you that it does.
No.
But it's certainly, football would be the prize if you could get a number of games. Amazon got the Thursday night game. It was a big deal when ESPN took Monday Night Football from their sister network, ABC, back in the day. But now, the viewing habits have changed. And then it gets back to is the payoff there? Is the return on investment there for a streamer? Because you can still, outside the season, the subscriber can still cut their subscription and move on. They can come back during football season. They don't have to sign a contract.
But what the media is noticing, every time there's a new streaming service that picks up a game or whatever, it's now out there and it's viral. What is the total cost if you want the availability to watch every NFL game this year? What is the cost, do you think? If you just want to be able to watch, so you buy the Sunday ticket, you buy everything else. In order to watch every game, what does it cost you? $1,600.
Yeah.
That's a number and even though most people don't do it, that is what's being promoted on something that for most people has been a free service, because the majority of people, if you get even the Sunday ticket, you'd use the Sunday ticket if you lived out of town to catch your home team. That's why you got it. You got it just for that. If you live in the home city, you're still going to get every game on regular TV. If you're the home team or the away team. you'll still get it. So it's really if you have an interest outside of it, and I don't think, except for maybe the playoffs or fans of a team that live in a different city, those are the ones that really have to pay. But when you see that number, when you see everything that's going on from personal seat licenses, and I know the Bills building their new stadium, that blew up into a national news story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because it's a smaller market. It doesn't have the corporate support, and so average fans are the ones that buy the ticket. I mean, the middle class buys the ticket, and when you see how high the price has gone, and I'll have people that I know in Western New York that will ask me, well, what about Dallas? And I'll say Dallas is 8 million people. There's a heck of a lot of more people to draw from in a state that's doing economically better than you are, that has 8 times the population to draw from. And so, you're going to be able to charge more for a ticket and a personal seat license. When you and I went through some of the personal seat licenses for L.A., for example, I mean, it's through the roof. It's unbelievable that what they want for personal seat licenses. Now, when will you price out the public? I don't know. I don't understand why people pay the amount they pay for tickets.
Right.
I used to be the biggest sporting fan on the planet, and I had season tickets to the Bills. And I would go to games when I lived in Buffalo, and I would still go to games here in Dallas. Even if I wasn't a fan, I'd occasionally go to games. I won't do it anymore. And I'm in the best position of my life to afford it.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason I don't, return on investment, I will always be that way. Is it worth the value of a ticket? Is it worth to get a good seat at an NBA game? Is it worth $500?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
To see one of 82 games? It's not. To some people, it is. But for the most part, the middle class is being priced out of actually attending each and every year. It gets harder for them to attend a game, and now we see where it's going in the NFL for streaming. I believe that at some point, almost all NFL games, even in your hometown, you're going to have to pay for, because they know that there's a market and you'll still get the commercials.
That's one thing that is that's coming, that's really becoming clear on streaming in general. Commercials are going to be the future. There's a couple of things. Advertisers are losing out on, back in the day, back when we were young, and I don't know why I did a really old Ted Koppel there, but we were a captive audience. You couldn't pause, you couldn't fast forward. It was commercials come on, whether you like it or not. And so I thought about it the other day. It was interesting. I was thinking about it, and then an article came up. Like new movies. If I don't see an advertisement for a new movie somewhere on digital and on YouTube, I pay for no commercials.
Same with me.
So I would only see it on social media, and I'm never on Facebook. I'm only on X, and I'm on X for work. And so I'm looking at certain things. It may never come up. I saw this digital ad for some movie that came out in 23. It was like, so I guess it's on streaming now or whatever. And I thought, I have no idea. It was totally in the void. Well, that's indicative of the fact that many people, I won't say all, many people have cut the cord. I wonder where it is now with inflation and everything else and people struggling to make budgets. But advertisers need to get in front of eyes. Well, how do you do that? Well, right now it's digital. And so they're knocking on the doors of Amazon and they're knocking on the doors of Netflix. It's not just another revenue source for those streamers. It's another way to get in front of people for those advertisers. So it has been, I think it's going to be a growing trend. We noticed, I don't know, a few weeks ago, watching a movie. My wife and I, movie night, we rented a movie, Amazon, and one 20-second commercial. Your commercial-free presentation will begin, and then it starts the countdown. And so it gives you the commercial, and then basically telling you no more commercials after this. And then there will be different tiers. But eventually it's going to be, and this is going to be frustrating, because if you're in the middle of a movie that you rent, that you pay for, that's not a free with Amazon Prime membership kind of thing, that's going to be a problem. Disrupting that, because you're right in the heat of the movie and all of a sudden, boom, it goes to commercial. It's what we paid to get away from. And so that balance is where they're going to have to come in. That's where I think Amazon, at least for now, is looking at it going, okay, if you're paying for Amazon Prime, you're paying that premium, one little commercial before everything gets started, and then you can start your movie without interruption. It's going to be on, I think, with football, we're still in that mode of watching the football on commercial entities and ESPN and everything else. So you can interject those sponsors and, all right, you got a 60-second timeout. Boom, you throw in the commercial. Things that we've kind of, as we watch football over the years, we've been conditioned to.
Right, and when you watch again, for example, if you get the Sunday ticket on Prime, not the Prime game, but the Sunday ticket, you're watching the TV broadcast, so you're getting the commercials. But
right.
When you're paying, I don't know what it would be now, $15 a game, or $15 a Sunday, it wouldn't be a game. $15, but that's the one thing I noticed, because they're playing, it seems like 7 nights a week. There's fewer games now Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern and then roughly the 4 o'clock hour Eastern, because they stagger the games.
Right.
You have fewer Sunday games.
Yeah.
Like last year, even if I wanted to watch the Bills, it was like from October until I think it was New Year's Eve, there wasn't one game I could watch because, people for some reason believe they're good and put them in the later, the Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, or the late game on a Sunday night. And it's like, okay. Right. I haven't checked the schedule this year because I really don't care. I mean, it's
right.
scheduled. They'll play who they play, but when I get into the season, I'll look and go, okay, what am I doing next week? When do I get together with my Buffalo buddies at Buffalo Brothers to watch a 1 o'clock Sunday game?
Right.
That I can do once in a while, then head home, go to sleep, go to work, because I like to see them. And it's very rare now, because if you get the thing in the NFL, if you get a quarterback, it doesn't matter whether you make the Super Bowl or not. I mean, people want to watch Josh Allen play. Quarterbacks are the difference in the NFL. We all know it. And as long as they have Josh Allen, they're not going to have 1 o'clock games. If you've got all 1 o'clock games, you go, it's great, I can watch all the games at 1 o'clock. Your team sucks.
Yeah.
And so, but and so, like I said, it's all the games used to be on Sunday. People forget that. Then Monday Night Football game came in, and now it's all throughout the week to get it, and it's like, But I still don't know. I know part of it was the Colin Kaepernick thing, and part of it was the whole, the Black Lives Matter and the NFL embracing the racist philosophy of Black Lives Matter and the lies of Black Lives Matter. That bothered me a lot. But there's another reason I haven't figured out why I just don't watch as much sports anymore. Not even golf. I'll watch this week the majors, and I've been watching Scotty Scheffler because he's so hot right now.
Right.
But other than that, like the golf tournament he was in, I didn't watch anything at all of it. I just, for some reason, as I get older, don't care.
Yeah, I think our attention span is changing too as a viewing public. I think that's the case. To what extent is it temporary? I don't know, but I think it is changing.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up in the bottom of the hour, we'll hear from constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley on the testimony before the Congressional Committee yesterday of Michael Cohen's ex-lawyer and where he thinks this case should actually go. Also, we'll get to that credit card research report on delinquencies that have surged. Almost 1 in 5 users have hit their credit line, are maxed out. So we'll get to that. And after years of stories of the Olympics and condoms being handed out, now the Paris 2024 Olympics will introduce anti-sex beds.
Wow. Okay.
Unless that's a new category of athletic events.
I don't know if I'm competing in that. I don't know.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Well, interesting day coming up today as Michael Cohen will continue with the cross-examination from the Trump attorneys. After this is done, will the trial be done? And should the trial be done? Will the defense not have to present anything after they ask the judge to come up with a direct verdict, which means the judge would say, you haven't even made a case and told me what the crime is.
Right.
Plus, as we know yesterday, the weaponization of government hearings continued from the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan leading that. And we already played some of the audio as Michael Cohen's ex-attorney was on there and said, you know, all this stuff he was saying about me yesterday, that's a lie. He committed perjury. And I have the evidence to prove it. And said that Michael Cohen said, nope, Donald Trump knew nothing about the Stormy Daniels payment. He didn't approve it. This was something that I decided to do on my own. That would be the testimony of his ex-attorney from a guy who's already a serial perjurer, as we know.
Right.
He's already perjured himself on the stand. As everybody said, is there anybody in the government he hasn't lied to yet? So Jonathan Turley was on Fox News yesterday and talked about, where this all goes now.
Well, it means what we already know, that Michael Cohen is the most compromised, unbelievable witness in the history of the federal legal system. That's hardly news. What we saw in his cross-examination was an evasive and rehearsed set of answers, and he's going to likely continue that tomorrow. But here you have his own lawyer now saying that what he said on the stand is diametrically opposed to what he told him in an attorney-client confidential setting. Now, we already flagged parts of the testimony of Cohen that did not seem to ring true. For example, Cohen said that he surreptitiously taped the former president for his protection, to keep David Pecker honest. That makes no sense at all. Nobody can make any sense out of how taping Donald Trump would somehow affect David Pecker. In fact, the call itself seemed to indicate that Trump had very little information about the deals that had been arranged by Cohen. It seems clear to most of us that he was banking insurance against Trump, that this was to be compromising information that he might use later. And that would be completely consistent with Michael Cohen. The only consistent elements in Cohen's career is that he will only tell the truth if he has no alternative, and he always acts for his own best interest.
So, and very quickly, his ex-attorney, who can testify because Cohen waived attorney-client privilege a long time back, testified, and it was brutal. I mean, as we said earlier, I wouldn't want that lawyer testifying against me.
No,
that's one articulate guy, and if you see him testify from the House, from his portion of the House weaponization hearings yesterday, you'd look at it and go, I wouldn't want him testifying against me. Extremely articulate, and if you look at his body language, comes across extremely no nonsense.
And if he's got evidence in writing,
yeah,
that counters what Cohen said on the stand.
Yep.
Wow.
Turley was on with Jesse Waters, and they continued the conversation here. Okay.
So does the defense call Cohen's ex-lawyer to the stand and just blow Cohen's whole testimony up?
Well, that would be something, wouldn't it? You would just have the president's former counsel testifying against him and then have his former counsel's former counsel testifying against him. At some point, it's going to get awfully strange. Yeah. No, I don't think that they will. Look, I think there's a strong temptation to just rest. I don't think they have presented the elements of any crime. We still don't know what this other crime was that was being concealed by Trump. But they also haven't put into evidence any clear support for saying that listing these payments as legal expenses was somehow fraud or wrong. Many experts are saying, no, if you're paying your lawyer his fees and costs that he put out there, most accountants will just list that as a legal expense because it's going to your lawyer. So they haven't put into play what is necessary, in my view, to get to the jury. But they may be tempted to put an expert on just to put a nail in this coffin. I can't understand how any honest judge would allow this to go to a jury. Judge Merchan is going to have his moment where he has to decide what he owes his commitment to, the rule of law or to something else. Because if he follows the rule of law, this would never go to a jury.
And he's right.
Well, and it also could be a career saver for the judge, quite possibly. I don't know if what would happen if he just holds the line on where he's been on this whole thing. But you can easily turn things around, and if the defense attorneys come to him and say, "Look, we need a direct verdict," and he obliges, because it's a very simple process. It's also a very simple exit ramp for the judge, who has been, and the judge knows now how bizarre he's been acting. he kind of walked things back. Remember, during the Stormy Daniels testimony, well, I didn't know it was going to. Yeah, you did. Of course you knew this was going to be a circus. You knew exactly what was happening here. And then you have, again, right outside your doors, leadership from the GOP showing up. This is not going well for you.
Did you see the article, National Review, that all these Republicans are basically breaking the gag order? Will the judge jail the Republicans en masse?
Well, you and I kind of asked that question when the gag order fine came down. I think the first one, it may have been the other one. But we said, well, wait a minute. What if his surrogates are out there? What if his anybody from his campaign is out there? What if one of his sons is out there? And now you have the GOP out there in full force this week, as they should be. But it's indicative of a couple of things. Not only does the GOP believe that Donald Trump is going to win this, they believe this is politically advantageous to them, advantageous to the former president. They believe this is what brings the party together, this lawfare that's on full display here. And the judge can quietly kind of untether himself from that by looking at prosecution saying, you haven't made the case.
What I found interesting is was when Turley said, when he was asked, do you believe that Costello, the Michael Cohen's ex-lawyer, will be called as a defense witness? And he said, I don't think so. That the defense should just rest because nothing has been, they should make the case in the closing arguments. We didn't do a defense because there's no crime here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, really? Because if the judge says to you, no, continue, then you do need to destroy the credibility of Cohen.
So do you only do it after the judge says, if the judge denies you?
Well, that's the only time you would do it because they're going to ask for a direct verdict. If the judge says no, well, then they will say, well, we just rest, or we bring the witnesses. We bring in our own witnesses. And like I said, that lawyer, and we played the audio earlier, he was slam dunk. He would smoke. If Cohen has any credibility with the jury to begin with, he would just smoke the credibility of Cohen at this point. So I just think what Turley's thinking is, there's just no honest judge that would allow this to go. No honest judge would let a case ever to go to jury when the prosecution hasn't defined specifically what the crime is.
Right.
I mean, my voice gets louder there, and it's like passionate because it's the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we haven't identified the crime yet, but we're going to send it to the jury, and they can figure out whether there was a crime or not. That's not how it's done.
Yeah, right. I don't know what direction you give the jury. What are the instructions for the jury?
That's great.
You have to get specific on the law. And where do you do that? Where do you do that? You basically, the judge in that case, is going to have to mimic what Alvin Bragg has been doing all along. Not that he wouldn't, but that's the only thing you can do. And, when you're given that direction, because even if he does it, even if he goes down the Alvin Bragg route, well, it's quite possible you have a couple of jurors that go, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What does the law actually say? We need clarity. We need a clarification. You write the judge a note. We've seen that back and forth before. Because you want to make sure you get it right. Unless you have all 12 going, it's Trump. Guilty. Those are your possibilities. But if you come out with a guilty verdict, there's the other thing, too. You come out with a guilty verdict, this thing goes to appeal immediately.
I think I saw, it was MSNBC, went out and asked voters if Trump was found guilty, what would happen, and they were all shocked. It would make me want to vote for him more. They actually went on the streets and asked people if he's found guilty.
Alvin Bragg needs to he needs to hope and pray that Donald Trump doesn't go to jail as a result of this. Because if you do that, the martyr you have created, I mean, who knows what the fundraising would be. If this thing happens, if there's a guilty verdict out of all this, even if he doesn't do jail time, if they allow him free on bond, I don't know how you turn that thing around. You have created something that will almost, it would be the single biggest thing, I believe, that would propel Donald Trump to a whole new level. If you come out if there's a guilty verdict from all of this, if this nonsense isn't stopped, you've created a martyr, and politically, that is going to destroy Alvin Bragg's own party by possibly November 5th.
Yeah, I'm still blown away with the polling and this is a couple of weeks old. It might be even greater now because of everything that has happened. But by a 53 to 43% margin, people believe that Trump is being charged because of politics, not because of criminal acts.
Right.
That's unbelievable to have that number.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said before, on most issues, it's 45-45, and then 10% saying, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on a case with this much hatred for Trump and the way the country is split, to have it 57-43, and that was a few weeks back before all this other insanity took place, it shows that the American public is actually paying attention.
Yeah.
And they don't like what they see.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I love how many on social media and in the media, mainstream media, were saying that Biden issues a challenge to Trump. Trump already issued the challenge. Biden responded to Trump's challenge.
Right.
And that's the timeline. Here's a question I have. In the video where he did it, and you had those 5 edits that were obvious, is the campaign that incompetent? Did they have not time to use the kind of editing software that would make it seamless, or did they do it on purpose?
Or was it so bad, was his presentation so bad that you didn't have a choice?
Well, there's a third option.
Well, I mean, because...
that you didn't have time to use whatever software. You had to get it out then, and it took you 10 hours just to get those 13 seconds.
Well, the thing is that, what do you tell him? Well, that was really horrible. You know, he does something. I want to see the unedited version. Oh, man. I'd pay to see that. But what do you tell him? That was really horrible. Can you do it again?
But the edits were so bad and so obvious.
Yeah.
You had to ask the question, did they do this on purpose? And if so, what was the reason?
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.